Okay, we're going to go ahead and call to order the Tuesday, May 2nd Trades Licensing Board. We're going to take roll call. Mr. Armstrong? Mr. Reeves? Mr. Panitsky? Mr. Dietrich?
Here.
Mr. Ziwi?
Here.
Mr. Bretz? Mr. Schaaf?
Here.
Mr. Hollern? Mr. Collins? Here. Mr. Grego?
Here.
Okay, thank you. First on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the previous meeting that was disseminated electronically. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grego. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dietrich. Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the motion? Being that there's none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, so moved. We're moving on to the public comment section. The first person on the public comment section is Mr. Roland Bellis. He'd like to address the board about his application denial. Is he on?
He is. There's a camera in the panel, it looks like.
Okay. Mr. Bellis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm on a Zoom call. Can you all hear me?
Yes, barely. If you could speak up.
Are you all able to hear me? Just
speak up, that's all.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, I was just
hold on, let
addressing
me
the board
interrupt you.
because I keep getting denied
Mr. Bellis, let me just interrupt you 1 second. We're going to give you 10 minutes to speak, and you can go ahead and address the board.
Okay. Yeah, I was addressing the board because I keep applying for a master electrician license, and I keep getting denied, and I'm not really sure why, because I'm pretty sure I meet the qualifications. I mean, the main reason I think is because I've been asked to wait for some solar license that doesn't exist. So yeah, I'm just trying to actually address the board to see, like, with supplying these documents, why am I getting denied an electrician license if I meet the qualifications of a master electrician license? Because it kind of feels like I'm being judged based on the fact that I do solar. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, you guys make that decision, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Z. Oh, Mr. Z.
I was asking them if they could shut the doors back there so we could hear.
Yeah. Could someone please
you shut
close
the doors,
door?
please?
Thank you. It's very noisy. Mr. Rollis, part of the licensing in our jurisdiction requires that, according to the UCC, you have to be under the employ of a master electrician for a specific amount of time to take the journeyman and the master's exam. So I think that totals, is it 8 years or 7 years for the electrical?
It is 4 years for an apprentice, 4 years as a journeyman, and 8,000 hours for both.
Okay, so it's 8 years and 8,000 hours, is that correct? So that is the reason, that is the ultimately one of the reasons why we don't approve. We do not reciprocate licensing with any jurisdictions that you are licensed in. So that's why we don't approve master licenses, because of the way it's written into our UCC code. You have to be under the employ of a master that's registered here.
In the city of Erie, so I guess the trouble is, right, like, I mean, I'm a licensed master in Philadelphia and Allentown, right, not to mention, like, 5 other states, right? But in the state of Pennsylvania, you guys do not have a master electrician license. So, statewide, right, like, it's kind of a little, no offense, but I mean, it's backwards to me, you know, but I think you guys really should get a state master's electrician license. But, so I'm dealing with what you guys have in the city of Erie, right? I mean, I'm 43, right? I've been I've been an electrician for 24 years. I've been a licensed master for 11 years. You know, I have hundreds of employees. So to me, I'm very competent and capable. So I'm not sure how I get that across to you guys, right? I mean, like, how can I be licensed working under a master when I myself am a master? Does that make sense?
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind. what is the lion's share of your business? Is it solar installation or is it electrical?
I mean, currently it's solar, but a part of solar is definitely doing like service upgrades, you know, so we do a lot of service upgrades. Am I working on branch circuits? Sometimes, but do I do commercial? Absolutely. Do I do residential? Absolutely. You know what I mean? So yeah, but the lion's share of my work today is solar.
Okay, I understand. And and you're in Frederick, Maryland, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So do you conceivably perceive that you'll be doing a lot of work here in this region, or is that why you want to have the license?
I mean, you guys took care of me, right? I got one job up there, to be honest. I don't even know how I sold a job up there. We're based in Harrisburg. So, you know, we're up there doing it. We're just trying to take care of this customer. I think we got it all worked out, at least for this one. Do I think I might get another one? Sure. I think the main reason for me joining is because I feel as though I've been wrongfully denied a license. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know why I'm joining, to be honest with you. It's really just that's the main reason, because I feel like there's been some violation of my rights here. I'm like, if I have the work, I've done the work, I've passed the master electrician exam twice in Pennsylvania, once in DC and once in Virginia. I'm like, what more could I do to qualify to be a master electrician? So I kind of feel like I've been wrongfully judged based on the fact that I do solar. Maybe you guys are concerned about the solar industry, concerned about the poor craftsmanship going on in the solar industry, which I do understand. And maybe you're confused about how you want to run your city with solar contractors, which I would understand as well. And my suggestion would be to really come down on installers and really do a quality inspection, because you know, the electrical wiring goes all the way up to the roof. I mean, you can't just be like, oh, I tied it into the main service panel, I'm an electrician, you know what I mean? I mean, there's electrical wiring, 500 volts DC throughout this entire home. I mean, it's a serious thing, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. I mean, do I see myself doing more jobs? I do think I could get another job up there. Yep, absolutely.
Well,
So that's kind of where I'm at.
I just want to comment. We're not denying you based upon the fact that you're a solar contractor. That's just fine. We have no issue with that. The reason why is the way that the ordinance is written for our licensing. You have to have the hours and the years in working under a registered master in our jurisdiction. So this isn't this. You're not the only person that gets denied because of that reason. It's not because you're a solar contractor. When the solar license does come out, which is be part of our software upgrade in July, you will have the ability to apply for that license, and there may be some changes. As of current, most of the solar contractors, yourself and others who come in to install those panels and that equipment, most of them just come get a permit from a master that's local, and then they do the job and they get the inspection, and that's how all of them have been doing it. You're not the only one. And you know, there's not really, I'm not saying that it's not serious, but the solar panels themselves, I mean, let's face it, they're plug and play panels. You're not really wiring the panels, hardwiring the panels, you're plugging in the connectors and they're coming down into the equipment room. So it's not because you're a solar contractor, it's because the way the law is written.
Well, that's interesting. So, okay, so your law is not judging me based on the fact that I'm a solar contractor. Your law is judging me based on the fact that I wasn't born and raised in the city of Erie, which I also think is a problem, right? I mean, you're telling me I can't work in your town because I'm not from your town. I mean, is that right? Isn't this the United States of America?
No, I think we're just telling you currently the ordinances in the city, you don't meet the requirements. We don't have reciprocity with Philadelphia or the documents you've shown us.
Your city ordinances are judging me based on the fact that I'm not born there, and I can't do my electrical work for 8 years under a Erie licensed master. It's not possible for me. I'm not from Erie.
In contrast, though, sir, I'm a registered master plumber in this city. I can't go to Philadelphia and go and file a permit. I mean, I'm not licensed in Philadelphia.
No, but you could be licensed. And see, I'm not from Philly either, but I have a Philadelphia license because they accepted my qualifications based on my life experience and my, you know what I'm saying? Like Yeah, so I was allowed to take the test, and of course I passed the test. I've passed the test 4 times. I've been an electrician for 20-some years, you know? So, yeah, I mean, really, I am being judged because I'm not from there.
I think you do have another
You're not
option,
allowing me to
though.
work there. I
Sir,
have to work with somebody else. Yep.
I think you always do have another option to hire a master plumber in the city.
Master electrician.
Or electrician, sorry, electrician. I mean, that's other
That's tough, right?
other
So I'm a
gentlemen that
master
have been
electrician, and
denied.
You're telling me that I have to hire a master electrician, which means I can't be an electrician.
We're not telling you what you can or cannot do, other than you don't qualify to take the test based on the law. And we didn't pass the law, we're just enforcing the law.
Right, so that law is a violation of my rights, right? Because you're telling me
I
can never be
can't, I
an
can't agree
electrician
with
there.
that or deny
Short-
that.
Short of moving there,
But your argument on whether your rights have been violated or not with this board, we're just doing what the law says. We didn't enact the
all right,
law.
so the qualification... Okay, I hear what you're saying. So you're enforcing this law that says I have to have 8,000 hours proven under a city licensed master for Erie City. Is this correct?
Not you. Anyone who wants to take that test.
Has to be signed off by a city master a licensed City of Erie master electrician.
That's correct.
That's the only way you can be qualified to take the exam in the City of Erie.
That is correct. Now, you do know you have another...
Oh, my goodness.
You do have another option, and you've exercised that option, is if you want to come to a solar job, you can get a one-time license and do the job, and then the next time you come back, you can look at a one-time license. That's an option for you, as long as it's not within a month or so, you know, or 1 year.
Yeah, I got you. And you're telling me that I can apply for this, even though I'm not licensed, even though I haven't studied under a master in Erie, I can apply for this solar license in July, right?
That's
You're
what
telling me I can do that.
That's what we're aiming for right now. July is our target date to unroll the applications for licensing. I don't have the
Gotcha.
specific details on what that's going to look like at that time, but
Okay. Well, you can obviously tell, I don't know if this gets journalized amongst your records or whatever, that I strongly agree with your city ordinances. I think it's horrible that you would do that to someone from out of state and you would prevent them to not work, you know, to do the work that they're traded to do. I'm traded to be an electrician, right? So you're telling me I got to give my work to some other electrician that's from your town. That I sold the project, I can't do the work. So I don't agree with it. I want that to go on record. I'm not going to sit here and try to change your all city, you know, but I do, just venting to you. But I'm glad you have a solution for me. I'm glad you got me taken care of, at least with this project, and that I guess I can revisit this in July. How long ago were these ordinances written? I mean, has this always been your process?
how long has it been, Andy? 50, 60 years?
The license.
Yeah,
I think it started in 72, I think.
1972, sir.
Wow. Well, I can tell you that I work everywhere in Pennsylvania, everywhere in Maryland, everywhere in Virginia, everywhere in D.C., everywhere in Delaware. You're the only place that's ever been like this. I've never been denied a master electrician license and the ability to work anywhere other than your city. So, and I'm doing probably like 2,000 solar installations a year. Yeah, I think it's wrong, personally. Yeah. You know, the qualifications, you should either be able to qualify to do the work and pass the exam. Yeah, you know.
Okay, well, we appreciate you coming today into the meeting. We noted all your comments, and if you want to check back when the solar license comes out, again, I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet at this point, so we don't have a lot of information or answers. We're waiting on software and some other things, so if you want to check back at that time, you're welcome to do that, and we appreciate you making your comments today. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks for hearing me out. I appreciate you guys, and I understand where you're coming from, so thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yep.
Okay, we're still in the public comment section of the meeting. Is there any other public comment today? Any other public comment today? Any other public comment?
I know for a fact that
Sir, sir, if you want to comment, you have to come to the microphone.
I'm sorry. I just was confirming.
Can you state your name and your address, please?
Jeff Hampy, 2904 German Street.
Okay, thank you.
I know for a fact that when I took the test in 1992, there wasn't that requirement of the 8,000 hours. The reason I'm pretty sure that came up was when someone took the city to court because they wouldn't let them take the test because it went by experience. At that time, when I took the test, I was working in international paper and never did any residential work or commercial work.
Okay.
But was able to take the master's test if I wanted, or the journeyman test. But someone took the city to court to take the test. They wanted to count Navy time. And they said, no, that doesn't count. You had a certain amount of experience you had to work. I worked under an engineer's license at Hammermill. That's why we didn't have to have inspections done there. I also have the state electrician's license too, but I know for a fact that that ordinance came into effect because someone took the city to court, and when the judge ruled in his favor that he could take the test, he failed the test anyway, which was no big deal. But I know that's how far that goes. That started in right around 1992 when the city was taken to court.
Okay.
No, it wasn't 60 years or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeff Hampy, Hampy.
Okay. Please state your name and your address.
Jacob Barr, 3050 West 42nd Street. I received a letter last month about my application for journeyman. And in that letter, it stated that they didn't consider my associate's degree a 2-year program. So I've since sent Andy Zimmerman and Christy Williams, like the state bulletin, PA State Bulletin, where it's accredited, and then information about Triangle Tech and where it's accredited as a 2-year program. Because I'm really trying to fall under this application where there's like subsection D here, so, and it reads, the qualifications for examination of candidates. When no apprenticeship program exists, applicants must show proof of employment under the supervision of a master license holder for a minimum of 4 years and has a level of education comparable to an apprenticeship program, or has a degree in their respective field and 2 years field experience, or has an appropriate level of certification from a recognized independent certifying body acceptable to the board and 2 years field experience. Now, I've been an electrician since 2015 really. When I graduated, I left and I went right to Parker Hannifin, which was a Fortune 500 company, and I was an in-house electrician there. And from there I left and I went to Welch's, and I was an in-house electrician at Welch's for 3 years there. And then I finally made the switch to residential and light commercial. And that's when I was inquiring about getting my license. And I found that that time, it all starts when a master electrician pulls your apprenticeship card, and that none of that time counted. And I was okay with accepting that, but when I read through all of this, and then I see that I fall under this category that was revised in March 28th of 2019, the application was revised, that I fall under that subsection. And I just wanted to make sure that it's better than doing 4 more years, for the betterment of my family, to get that journeyman card so that I can make more money. And that's really been holding me back. So I just kind of wanted to appeal to the board on that decision, because Triangle Tech, it is a specialized technology degree, so it's an associate's degree. It is done, 72 semester credit hours, and it runs right through summer, so it's 16 months, but it's equivalent to the IEC, or it's equivalent to EIT, or anything that was accepted by the board. So I just wanted to make sure, that you guys had all that information to maybe reconsider that ruling.
Jacob, could I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
While I don't doubt that the schooling does meet the criteria, the second part of that was the hours. So you've worked for a licensed journeyman or electrician,
For
and
2,000,
and
over
you
2,000 hours.
you can verify that.
Oh, yeah, I have. I submitted all that documentation. I worked for Joe Dobridge, and I had well over 2,000. And then I did a short stint with Shalcom Electric that was under Dale White's master license number and is now under Bill First. But I've since had a disagreement with him and left.
But you've not been registered, I'm missing the disconnect here. You've not been registered with the city?
I have been registered with the city.
How
and
many
then
years?
in November, it will be 2 years.
Yeah, you have like 19 months now, right?
19. I didn't know if it changed. It's so hard to find any of that information. There's conflicting things that are older online, and it's really hard to find exactly what I just pulled up. But it's the same application that I submitted a month ago.
If I remember correctly, Dale White was disqualified from Shawcam because he wasn't a full-time master with them.
I guess the new ordinance in August said that, and then this is just their ordeal, it has nothing to do with me, but the new ordinance said that there's one master license number issued per one working entity now, as of August of 2022. So he works
I know
for
Dale
WMT
White. He's been
Spader
with
as a-
he's
as
been
a-
with Spader since February 16th of 2021. So I don't know how he'd work with Shawcam. That's why I know Shawcam now has a new master license holder.
Right, Bill First.
So the date of your application, which Dale White signed, said he was under his supervision, or Dale White's supervision, between November 2022 to February 2023, which I know at that point in time he had worked for William T. Spader.
Yes.
He was working for William T. Spader.
Yes, and then and I have worked with him. And then what I explained, I think, to you, Christy, was that Joe Dobridge is unwilling to sign off on my checklist verification. The solution between you and Andy Zimmerman was for the master electrician to interview me to make sure that I knew these things on the checklist. To work with me, you know what I mean, for as much as I could, but to also sign off in place of Joe Dobridge because he was unwilling to sign off on mine after my exit of employment with him. So that's exactly what I did do, so.
Well, all I'm saying is I don't think the verifying statement is truthful as far as because of the dates did not work with his employment with Shawcam and between William T. Spader.
As of being with that ordinance that says that it was...
No, just because Dale White has worked for Spader since 2021.
I mean, again, I don't really know the inner workings of everything, but he was working with Shalcom and working with Spader, so is what I gathered from everything.
How long did you work for Dobridge?
Dobridge since, I don't have the exact date, but I believe it was September of 2021.
Do you have W-2s from your employment at Dobridge?
Yes, and then I had all these copies.
Did you turn them in? Hold on.
I did.
I got them. Never mind.
Okay. I included some other things. I know it wasn't relevant, but I included that, you know, my employment with Welch's, my employment with Parker, I think was in there as well. I know it doesn't matter much, but it was truthfully my experience as an in-house industrial electrician.
So he's paid his apprentice license for 2 years, is that correct?
Yes. It'll be 2 years
In November.
in November.
what's the,
It's gotta be 4 years. You gotta be an apprentice for 4 years before you take the test.
Yeah.
can you scroll back
It's
to
right,
the?
yeah, right here on,
So currently, you would need technically 2 more years, right?
That's why I was almost, it's the qualifications for examination when you read that subsection D, the way that it's worded, and the way that I see it.
here's the wording right here.
Yes.
When no apprenticeship program exists, applicant must show proof of employment under a supervision of a master electrician license holder for a minimum of 4 years and has a level of education comparable to an apprentice program or has a degree in a respective field with 2 years of field experience.
2 years of field experience.
But you don't have 4 years with a master apprentice or a master contractor.
I know, but wouldn't the "or" be why that was worded that way, so that the people who have 2 years of schooling and 2 years of employment would have the 4 years that would be equivalent to no apprenticeship program for somebody who didn't do school?
4 years with a master plus the schooling.
Oh. Okay.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
It seems like it would be, that's just what it seems like it would be written that way. So then
It's
they would
pretty,
say-
it's pretty clear that
Okay.
it's 4 years with a master and then the degree of education after that too.
And then 2 years field experience added into that?
And has a level of education. And/or.
When no apprenticeship program exists, applicant must show proof of employment under a supervision of a master license holder for a minimum of 4 years. You've got not quite 2 yet.
Was Triangle Tech?
But has education comparable to apprenticeship program. But in lieu of the apprenticeship program, I have an associate's degree and 2 years field experience. That's just how I was.
Excuse me, it does not say in lieu of.
I know.
It says when no apprenticeship program exists. And there are apprenticeship programs in this area.
What's the name of your education program?
The IEC.
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 And that's industry
No,
recognized.
that is a
Yeah, we're
degree
approved by the
in
Bureau of
respective
Apprenticeship Training.
field.
We're,
Of the
Would
labor
it-
and industry.
correct.
Okay.
I wasn't asking for my journey. I just want the ability to test for it.
Oh, yeah, we don't give licenses out. We just
Yeah.
say, hey, you can take the test.
I've been doing this
Yeah.
a long time. I feel, it feels, I was working 16-hour shifts, so it feels like it's
Yeah.
double the time.
The apprenticeship, isn't it, when you take the exam after the 4 years, the education has to be registered with the state. Is that correct, or am I incorrect?
yeah, it's 8,000 hours.
So it has to be in a state-approved educational program, the IEC or the IDEW.
Correct. Well, they're both identical.
Okay. So even though Triangle Tech is an accredited school, they're not registered as a state-recognized educational forum for electrical. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's my understanding.
That's,
They're accredited Commission for Career Schools and Colleges, but that's not registered with Labor and Industry
as an apprenticeship.
as an apprenticeship.
So it needs to be registered with, or I need to find documentation where it would be registered with, what exactly?
I don't know, with all your work experience, I think the easiest thing would be to go back in time and document all your work experience and have it put through the city's program with a master licensed holding employer verifying that you work there.
So that's all I need to do is have a master in the city of Erie verify that I wasn't working in the city of Erie, I was working in Union City, and then I was working in Northeast Pennsylvania. But,
But you were in the room for the previous comments.
right.
The law as it reads says you have to work under a City of Erie licensed master electrician. If you work for McDonald's as their chief electrician, and you don't work under a licensed master, City of Erie, that time doesn't count.
Right.
It's the same that the previous guy was talking about. You have to work under that licensed master electrician in your case. So you need those years. We're not going to waver from those years. We realize you've got an education, but the numbers are still there, and you don't meet those numbers today. So, I mean, I don't see how we can say to the guy on the phone, hey, you don't qualify because you haven't worked, and then say to you, oh, sure, you can come in because you live in Erie. The same thing holds. You've got to work under the licensed master.
I understand. I just, it's just the way that that's worded there in that subsection D. Again, you know what I mean? Is it confusing? Because it is to me. It almost reads as if it was the or is the important part to put before that, because why would they ask for 4 years and then ask for 2 more?
Well, you can pick every word out of that sentence you want. There are approved apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship programs do exist.
Right.
And
Right.
it says where no apprenticeship programs exist. Well, that isn't the case. They exist.
Right.
So is everything after that a moot point?
I mean, I paid $35,000 for Triangle Tech with the, you know, to have an associate's degree. You know what I mean? There's wording in there for a degree. That is a degree. And I can compare it to the IEC, right? I don't know much about the IEC. I know they go 1 day a week. I went 5 days a week. I know they do it in 4 years. I did it in 1. So it's all the same curriculum. If you, is EIT a certificate that would be accepted in that subsection?
I will tell you that I've been on a couple different boards for a lot of years, and this has always been an issue where guys go and say, "I paid $35,000 for my education." It's just a bad situation.
Yeah.
And you're not the first person to have this problem either.
Yeah, I understand
And this goes
that.
back into the 90s.
Yeah, I just want to, if I can even help to, you know, to push this as you know, something that they're going to accept, because we're graduating kids from EIT. Is there any other thing besides the IEC, which I don't really, I've met a handful of journeymen from the IEC that are handed their journeyman card. I'm leaps and bounds ahead of them.
They do have the ABC program too.
The ABC program. And if I could take and compare that to, you know, the curriculum to this curriculum, and is there a way that, you know what I mean, in the future here? I know I had till November.
I did look into Triangle Tech because I'm part of the program for the apprenticeship for the IBEW. We do have students that come through, apprentices that come through our program, and we try to give them credit because they attended, you know, Erie Institute of Technology, Triangle Tech. We went and contacted Triangle Tech, and they stated, like you stated, the credited hours is only 72 hours. Our program is an 800-hour program.
Okay.
So
8,000.
Well, I sat,
it's 8,000 hours on the job training. In school is 800 hours.
I can't go backwards though. I sat there with Matt Furman at the IBEW, and we talked about what, you know, even going to the CE program or something like that. I can't take $12 an hour. I have 3 kids. You know what I mean? I don't want to go backwards, but
I understand.
That's what I'm
I
being
guess, you know, if, you know, we can leverage Joe Dobrich to you know, get you your records for what you worked for him, you know, through ShawCam. Like I said, I think, you know, I know he has a new master, you know, full-time master now working with them. You know, if that would help out.
I mean, I spoke with Bill first. We had a lengthy conversation, and I explained to him what I was told was that interview me, make sure that I know these things, because Joe won't sign. Interview, make sure that I know these things, and then that would have sufficed as the sign off. But I did that with Dale White, so I thought that part was good. It's just now the timing thing, and really that's all I was doing was I know you just denied this guy from wherever, Delaware. He seems to be doing fine. You know, but I was just, you know, I was hoping that's what that meant. That subsection D meant that, you know what I mean? Because it's versus this November, then waiting until 2025. You know, and everyone who knows me would know that I have this experience, but without that card, they're not willing to give me X amount of dollars that I need.
Does the chief code officer have something to add to this?
I do, and I would ask the board to table this
until I get an interpretation from our solicitor's office for next meeting
Fair enough.
and, for clarification.
There's no motion on the floor, so we can table the topic, and it can be reviewed by, the language can be reviewed by the solicitor for the city, and the solicitor will give us a better answer, and then you can come back and we'll be, in other words, the code office will be in touch with you.
Okay, well, I
Okay,
want to thank
Jacob?
you all for your time.
Okay.
I have one quick question, Jeff. Where are you currently working? You say Welch's or?
Where was I?
Where are you
current-
working currently?
Right now, I'm unemployed. I am, I am working for myself. I do my own contracting in the county.
Okay.
And, I mean, that's not going to work towards my master's, though. I realize that. And I've talked to a handful of employers, about it. And it's, hey, you don't have that card. I can't send you by yourself in the city of Erie. I can do all these jobs by myself. I've done a lot of these things by myself. You know what I mean? A lot of them. Like, I mean, I ran all the conduit at St. Stanislaus, and then once I leave Joe, then they pull the wrong amount of conductors. You know what I mean? A lot of things went downhill after I left Joe. But, I mean, and then Jeff Hampe, he could vouch for me too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times that he said, you at 32 years old is like me right now. You know what I mean? As far as the knowledge goes, but it's I can't remember where I was going with this exactly, but it's yeah. I guess that's just disappointing that we'll have to wait till the city solicitor evaluates that language.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just working for myself right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you.
The code office will be in touch with you. Is there any other public comment today? Any other public comment? Seeing that there's no other public comment, the public comment section of the agenda is closed. Secretary report.
The master license holder notice was drafted by Mr. Zimmerman. He forwarded a copy of the licensing to the licensing board for their input and possible approval. Comments were received and noted. This notice will be discussed at today's meeting. Secondly, the correspondence from Ron Yazos is still under review by Mr. Zimmerman and Plumbing Inspector Zach Kindle.
We'll discuss the letter drafted under old business. So we'll move that into old business. Correspondence. I'll read the correspondence section. Jensen Weatherby obtained his apprentice license with the City of Erie in February of 2023. Mr. Jensen has 8 years' experience in the military as a journeyman plumber. Mr. Weatherby is requested to take his journeyman's exam, see the DD 214, and note highlighted sections 11 and 14. Mr. Weatherby also has 3 additional years in the National Guard in the same position, but is still waiting on that DD 214. I'm a little confused. He wants to take the plumbing exam?
Yes, he wants to take the journeyman. He's currently an apprentice. He was a journeyman in the military, and he wants to be able to take the journeyman's exam. I told him I had to present that to the board to see if he was able to take it since he wants to know since he has the experience in the military, if he can take the journeyman.
Did he register under what master? He registered under a master, obviously. Is he working for that company?
He is currently right now working for
Advanced testing?
Advanced testing.
Okay.
Yes.
Did he fill out an application to start?
No, he did not fill out an application. I told him I wanted to wait
Okay.
to present it to the board because he just got his apprentice license when
Okay.
he started working for them in February. So I told him I needed to present it to the board to see if he can even go ahead and apply for it.
And who is the master plumber that signed that?
The son what?
That signed him up as an apprentice? Who's the master that?
Advanced testing, they just got a new, it was Benny Brands, and now, Zach, do you know who their master is? I I can't.
That's okay.
And he's new, he just, when Denny Brand stepped down, he got a new master.
Okay,
I'm
that's
sorry, I
okay.
don't have his name off the top of my head.
We'll circle back with that another time, but I'm going to say that, you know, we do support our veterans, but unfortunately, it doesn't meet the criteria for him to take the exam. That's my opinion on that.
I agree with you.
I agree.
I don't think we need to make a motion about it. We just need to let him know that we're not going to be able to allow him because it doesn't meet the criteria as outlined in the UCC code. Okay? Everybody good on that?
Yep.
Okay. We're done with the correspondence section. We'll move into the old business. Justin Lathrop's master electrician application was approved. Eligibility to test letter was sent to Mr. Lathrop on 4/5/23. Passed the exam, and he was issued his master license. Andrew Vorshik, journeyman electrician, application was approved. Eligibility to test letter was sent to Mr. Vorshik on 4/5. Chris Gallagher's appliance installers application was approved pending the receipt and approval of completed verification page by David Fuchs and 3 reference letters from colleagues in the trade. Eligibility to test was sent to Mr. Gallagher on 4/5. Kyle King, journeyman's plumber application was approved. Eligibility to test letter was sent to Mr. King on 4/5. Kyle passed the exam and was issued a journeyman license on 4/26. Jacob Barrs, journeyman electrician, was denied due to lack of hours and appropriate amount of licensed years. A letter was sent to Mr. Barr explaining why his application was denied. We all been through that already, so. Roland Bella's master electrician application was denied, and Michael Stinson was contacted with the board's 8-year work history request. And then under old business, we'll just discuss that letter. I think that we need to change a little bit of the wording in the letter going out to the verifier masters. I think the language is a little, it's not quite worded the way that we think would be best. So I think we'll just table that and talk about that later. I don't think
You
that,
got the updated version of the letter, didn't you?
is that what?
There was one just sent out. A new letter was just sent out recently.
From Kristen?
I think Christine.
Yeah, I
had
have
some-
it, hold on. Yeah, but I think some people had some objections to. Yeah, I have it right here. I mean, just, we can approve that letter, I mean, it's,
I don't know, I guess my thing is what disciplinary actions will be taken. I feel that the verification process is what needs changed, not this. That would eliminate the problem we have with Gallagher Plumbing. As an employer, I look at this like, I've got a bad guy, and he quits. And maybe I had trouble or whatever, and now he comes back and he says, hey, I'm gonna get my license, put you out of business, who knows what. But if you have a bad employee and he decides to take his license, that's no different than you getting fired from a job, going back to that job, whether it be at a bank or wherever, and then asking them for a letter of recommendation so you can apply for another job and be in good standing there. That's how I take this. And I talked to as I'm out and about, I talked to a lot of other electricians, and really, no one was in favor of it, but I think a lot of us, I mean, I've had guys that have worked for me that took a master test. I had no problem with it. Their time was their time. I just think that we're just painting the whole issue with a broad brush, and I really think the issue is the verification process. And if we could refine that or get that a little better, it will eliminate problems in the future also, like Gallagher's problem.
Yeah, it's a
That type
problem. It's good, it's saying, yeah, I agree, that's not the first time we're gonna see this.
It's a problem, it's kind of a unique problem.
Unique.
I agree.
You're unique.
But yet, I don't know what the solution to that would be either, whether it would be, and I don't want to create a bunch of work where you would just interview the person and you know, do we feel that he needs to obtain it, or, you know, do we feel he's got the necessary knowledge and experience to take the test? I don't know that I want to go that far, but I don't know. I don't know how other communities do this, if they have, you know, it was always, we compared ourselves to Allentown all the time. You know, does Allentown or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, what do they do for their verification process? Is it the same?
Well, let me ask Andy a question. Andy, is most of the problem from people who are no longer employed by that particular master, or is it people that are currently employed that they won't sign for, or is it all of the above?
It's mostly where the employees moved on. But that's who we want to hear from, is that original master. Did they master the ability to put in the hose bib? They've done it, but they didn't master it. I had to tell them how to do it. That's what we want to know. You know, he didn't, so you don't sign off on it. He didn't really, or she didn't learn proper technique to install that bib. That's where that original master needs to show that or say that. And I think if we, in the verifier's form, maybe we ought to have a statement by that master, do you recommend this individual for, you know, journeyman's position or master's position?
Yeah, and then maybe even an explanation like why or why not. I mean, at the end of the day, that verification page is asking for, does this person have that skill set? Not is this person a jerk that doesn't show up for work and whatever.
Well, I mean,
so,
even in that respect, if you had a guy you didn't like and he wanted you to verify it, all you got to say is, no, I don't think he was good at that, and now you deny him the test anyway.
It's hard to get away from whether they like him or not. Is he good or she good at installing that? Have they mastered that skill to install that?
Yeah.
Well,
Andy, back when I used to push work and I had guys working for me, if somebody called for a reference, I would say they worked for me from this date to this date, and that's all legal counsel, my legal counsel, told me I was able to do. I could not verify their skill set, their personality, nothing other than they worked, because for me to say anything else as an employer, I could be held liable in the courts should he not get the job he thought he deserved, if he could somehow manipulate that where I stopped him. So if you called me looking for a reference on an individual, TJ worked with me from Saturday the 6th to Saturday the 13th. Well, can you tell me about his work habits? He worked for me on the 6th through the 13th. And that's all I would say. That's all I was allowed to say, working for that company. So it's you're putting an employer at risk as much as the employer's holding back the employee.
well, let me ask this. Wouldn't it stand to reason that if someone was applying to take the journeyman exam, say, someone's going to have to, he's more than likely, let's say a guy worked for ABC Electric and then he went to Ziwi Electric, okay? And he was there most of the years at ABC Electric, and then Mr. Ziwi says, you know, I'll do your verifier. I mean, when these guys move on, are they not employed by another master electrician? I mean, I mean, if he got mad at ABC and he left and he went to work for Ziwi Electric, he's already under another master, although we can't verify. But if Mr. Ziwi says, yeah, okay, he has the skills, that's what I'm trying to figure out here, is what situation do we get in where they're not currently working under another registered master? Is that frequent? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of feel like that the more I think about it, we're addressing something that's a problem that might come up once in 5 years.
I was just gonna say, we're trying to legislate here for like the half of 1% of the problems that we have, painting with a broad brush again.
That's true. We knew this was gonna happen.
Right. I mean, I would imagine that in the rarity that this happens, we're going to have to address each case by case, on a case by case basis, because obviously there was one with Shulcom, but that's so rare that somebody would leave an employer and then not, go back to work for another employer. I mean, and then not be able to get verified. Seems like a very rare situation. And of course, anyone could come to us that has that issue and could make a complaint to us, and we could always look into that. So
what you're saying is you want the verification page to be changed to date of employment versus skills? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No.
You want it to say skills?
State, or keep it the same for now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we were just throwing out ideas there, but I think that the rarity of this situation, the board could just make a decision on a case-by-case basis instead of sending a letter out like Mr. Ziwi pointed out that.
Say you had someone come up to you, Andy, and they complained about it. Couldn't you let the board know and then possibly call that contractor into the board, and we could talk to him and find out what the problem is, and we could even question him or something?
Well, that's
I
going,
like that.
we could do that provided they're willing, I don't think we can issue subpoenas here.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I wish we could, but I don't think we can. Okay, so I guess we're gonna just agree to hold off on the letter. We don't need to, yeah, we'll just agree to hold off on the letter. Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. We're getting into new business. Under review and approve electrical applications and plumbing applications.
I don't think we got to that yet.
Where are we at here? The first one is, I'm on the wrong one. The first one is
Melbourne?
Mr. Mark Melber. This one's easy.
Is he any different than the first video conference?
No.
When I looked through there, I couldn't find anything from the city of Erie.
No.
Who signed this, him?
No.
Verified?
Someone else.
KCCM as the verifier?
It says
His verifier is
Kevin
Marlowe.
Kevin Marlowe.
He's got a Buffalo license.
Yeah, he's not a registered master electrician within the city of Erie. So, in accordance to law, this application does not meet the criteria.
I agree. I mean,
Okay.
that's the way I read that.
Is there any other discussion on that?
I agree. I just want kind of real quick, I don't want to keep going on and on, but we're going to see a lot of out of city, like Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and clearly like the solar licenses, as in reciprocity. I know we had approved one guy like with 40 licenses, you remember? And I don't know what his name was. Chris, do you remember? Yeah, I'm talking about. He had like 40 licenses. Virginia, you name it, he had everything under the book. At what point are we approving, denying? You know what I mean? What's that?
Russell Keel.
Yeah, maybe that was his name. He had like 40 licenses, and Remember that one? So I know as a reciprocity with electricians right now, we have what?
We already have contractors from out of town working in the city.
Yeah.
Getting a master's license. Now, how they got that license, I don't know, but I think that's a major issue, because you're gonna want guys coming in and work, and they're already here doing it. Somebody finds that out, that's gonna be another can of worms.
Well, like the guy too, the solar gentleman, Rhodes. He said he's a master electrician in Philadelphia, which we don't have reciprocity with them, but.
Well, we do have to get some kind of consistency.
That's
going
my
here.
whole point is,
As
like-
far as if they pass the same test that the city of Erie requires
Or
a
find
person
it
to
competent.
pass for a master's license, then, I would think, that does have some value to it. And again, since I don't know what meeting that was, January, February, where we did approve another individual from out of town.
Yeah, but he was registered here, right? Isn't that correct?
Well, let me read this to you.
Okay.
This is out of the ordinance. Application requirements for master contractor license. The applicant must hold a current City of Erie journeyman license for a period of 4 years and work a minimum 8,000 hours in their respective trade before taking the master's test. This requirement shall be waived if an applicant has a current master license from a competent jurisdiction whose standards are determined to be equivalent to those of the board.
We approved one of those because it was an
Then
ICC
shouldn't we be looking
equivalent.
at Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Allentown and see what their requirements are and compare them to ours? And if they are in fact the same, then we've answered the question where we're making these
We did
people-
this once because, like, you gave, I don't know what test you guys give, like this guy, one of them was a WC-14. And whatever test you guys gave, the one applicant that we did like in January or February took the exact same test.
Oh, did he?
And we passed it.
Because I asked what that
Yeah, and
test
we allowed that because it
was.
was the exact same
I remember
test.
that now.
But Andy, you said that there were,
We gave a test?
you had told us what the test was, what the ICC test was. Yeah, he took W-16.
Okay.
And this was the same case where in January or February, there was someone that had the same case, passed the test that we gave, and we allowed him to,
Wait a minute, this was a journeyman exam, is that right?
no, it was a master.
I don't recall.
I think it was a master.
I think it was a master.
But
Mm-hmm.
wasn't he registered under someone?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember.
So,
He was registered in 15 states or something.
that's right, he had licenses he had like
did.
30 licenses.
Yeah.
But he specifically had a license in Philadelphia that was the same number as what the number is we did here.
Correct.
Because I think to your point, that number was questioned. What does that mean? And that happened to be the same number as the test that we use. And I think that's why he was approved.
Mm-hmm.
It was Russell Kill. He took F-16.
F-16, okay.
He took W-16, and he took 211 for Philadelphia. So he had passed all three of these, and that's who we gave a license to.
What one do we require?
Yeah.
W-16.
So if someone applies and already has a W-16, do we have to give them a license then, right? If we reciprocate.
Or grant him permission to take the test.
Correct.
Granted permission to take the test.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we didn't give him a license, did we?
No,
that means
we
he
gave
takes
him
the test
permission
to
to
Ability
take
to
the
take
test.
the test.
Yes.
That is
So now, right, if we go back
We
to,
gave him a license.
Oh,
No.
we didn't just have him test.
No, because he's already taken it.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would he take the same test twice?
so,
Philadelphia could have requirement of 6,000 hours. We have 8.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to verify, like the gentleman earlier that has a license in Philadelphia. So we would need to see what they require.
Well, we could still require the 8,000 hours.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And he already has the test, so he doesn't have to take the test again. Just show us your 8,000 hours.
They've just got to prove that it's equivalent to what we require to the board.
Well, yeah, but if, like you said, if they're requiring 6 and we have 8,
It's not equivalent.
right, so they have to get another 2,000 hours. That's the only thing they need to get.
Yes,
They don't really need to take the test again.
Now you,
if
now
they've
you,
taken the test already and passed.
now you open another can of worms. Does that additional 2,000 hours have to be under a city master, or? This goes on and on.
It's not equivalent, they don't get a license.
Right.
But again, so it's the W-16 that the city of Erie tests,
Yes.
okay? So this Mark Melber, he passed the W-16, but this was the national standard test, but this was, I guess, for the city of Buffalo?
Yes, that's where he's from.
All right, so since it's the same test, then do we look at the city of Buffalo to see what their qualifications are or not?
Yes. He would have to provide us that information so that the board can determine if it's equivalent.
So,
Because that goes back to the, anybody can take that test, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, if we go back to Mr. Bells that spoke to us, did he pass a W-16 test?
That I don't know.
No, that's Mark Mueller. Melber.
He has
I'm looking.
Now, if you really want to screw it up, if this guy took the 16 test and he passed it, and the hours were 6,000 in one jurisdiction and 7,000 in the other jurisdiction.
211.
So it's not the same test.
I think he has another one in here too, but it's 67 pages.
I'm trying to go through it now. It's amazingly long.
He submitted the 211 to me, but I know he was saying that he has taken the test multiple times.
Wouldn't it make sense that if you took the correct test, then they have to meet the conditions, and if they meet the conditions, then they can at least they get the license. If they have, we should pick some other tests though that are close to equivalent, and if they pass those, it doesn't mean they get a license, they now have to take the W-16, but at least opens up the door for them to take it, because the tests are all very close. I mean, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have a couple of their own codes that they've altered, but for the most part, I think if these guys pass the test, we should move them to the next category of having met the hours and go from there. And if they haven't passed the W-16, we should be picking a few equivalents to where it at least opens the door where we're going to let you take the W-16, and then if you pass that and meet the standards, then you get a license. That's my 2 cents on it.
But one thing, prior to the W-16, the 211 was one that we took. We accepted that.
Yeah, the one he took was Philadelphia,
Yeah,
so it's a
we
modified
accepted-
test.
We accepted that one.
It's their test.
I only found under the gentleman earlier, the 211.
Yeah, 211.
Yeah, but so he
So
didn't,
we did accept that test. It was prior to, it was written up in the, application before. We did accept that one.
I don't think you're going to find the problems, the license, the test itself.
All right, I'll take you.
I approached Andy about 20 years ago about taking the test. I felt confident I could pass the test. I didn't have the hours working under a master.
Yeah.
That's where the rub's going to be.
Yep.
Verifying hours. And if they meet the criteria in their jurisdiction of 2,000 hours or 4,000 hours or 6,000 hours, and ours is 8, I don't see how there's any way possible for that individual to come up with those missing hours.
It's not equivalent.
And based on that alone, it's not equivalent, they're rejected. I'm not trying to close the gates on the city, But I'm also not trying to get into a situation where you're in because you're from Erie and you're out because you're from Philadelphia. And that's what that guy's taken away from this. The video conference. That guy's taken, we closed the gates on the city.
He would have to prove to us they took the correct test. And we could say, okay, you're not eligible because you haven't taken this test. You can take that test, and if you pass, we can give you a license.
And prove
If
it's
he
8,000
proves
hours.
he's got the 8,000 hours, and
I think we should put Andy on the road to go to Philadelphia and Allentown and say, sit down with them. Okay? Even if it's Zoom, I mean,
yeah, you can get everything online.
yeah. And then talk to them.
It's not our responsibility to do that. It's their responsibility to provide us all the information necessary for you to make a decision.
But do you make an automatic decision if we don't have 8,000 hours?
Do I?
Do we?
No, because it's not equivalent test. It's not equivalent to what we require.
So that's an automatic decision.
But
Right?
I can't tell you that 8,000 hours is pretty much the norm across PA or whatever.
Andy, do you know what, like, Philadelphia and
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, I
At
was
one
just
point in
curious.
time, I
I'm assuming when
When you were younger.
Do they usually,
prior to COVID.
do they usually call you, Christie?
Who?
Like an applicant, like to get information or whatever?
Yes.
So could you tell them, hey, can you submit what the criteria was that you took your test by?
Okay, so whatever
That would be helpful.
jurisdiction, the jurisdiction's
Yeah,
criteria.
and you know, say they took
We
it.
can just add it to the application.
Yeah, that's what, and then that would save us a lot of work too.
I just want to go back, though, in time, if you will. I'm looking at this guy's list. And there was a point in time where if I had a license, the city would accept that license.
We used to reciprocate.
My point being, if back in the 80s, I went out to Northeast and bought a license because it wasn't a knowledge-based license, it was a pocketbook license. If you could afford to buy the license, you got the license. And then I used that to grow my business and have, how can you deny me? I got 47 licenses.
Yeah.
But not one of them was a knowledge-based license.
That means nothing to me. Only thing I'm looking for is the hours and the correct test.
That's where I was going with this, Andy, is we're still at the point where the sticking point for me is the field experience. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know what it is when you're standing in front of it, what good is it?
Yeah. Technically, we can reciprocate with the language that's in this one. Just prove it to us.
Right.
That it's equal.
What I'm gathering here is, can we come to an agreement that W-16 grants them a license area, and if it's a 211, that grants them the ability to take the W-16 test?
I would say no.
No. Because I could take the W-16 and have 1 year's experience out in the
Or
field.
no experience. I could go take it up
Yeah.
a plumber.
Yeah. So,
I
yeah.
I know what you're saying. They've got 10,000 hours. They have that W.
16.
16.
Yeah, okay.
The other.
211.
Yeah, take the hours and all that.
They have that, and there's probably 50 other master electrical tests you can take to the ICC, but we require the 60. So, yes, they can take the test because they have that one, but they've got the hours, so technically they're eligible. Go take the test. That's going to tell us what we need to know is, can they pass that test?
Do you guys agree?
I mean, that,
If given the hours with the 211, they should be allowed to take
Is
the
there,
W-16?
is there going to be any loopholes with other people that are getting verifiers in the city is the question too.
I mean, I believe that this is going to be an out-of-state issue.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is gonna cover us on the reciprocity
Yeah.
end of everything. So we won't be denying this guy here, Mark Melber, who already has the W-16 and he passed the test on.
Well, he's got to provide us with the hours, though.
Right, he took the test on 3/13/2018, so with that being said, that was 5 years ago. Is he gonna have the documentation still from when he was a journeyman?
He should be able to prove
Should be
his
able to
work
prove his
history.
W-2s, yeah.
He should be able to, I
Yeah.
mean, but
Everybody should be able to prove, I mean,
should,
Should and could.
let's ask for it.
right.
Just to go back to what I said previously about the 211, that was one that he did accept. There are people who have the city of Erie license, master license right now who have worked in Erie, and that's the test that they took. They took the 211.
Why did you change? Why was it changed?
I don't know if it was when the years changed and they wasn't accepted anymore, but there's paperwork that the 211 was listed on there with Philadelphia.
Yeah,
and the exams that they took.
I think that changed, I'm gonna say 8 years ago. The ICC, we had our exclusive test, like Philadelphia does now. And because we didn't meet the population,
We had to take theirs.
we had to have a, can't think of the word, uniform test, like across the country. And anybody can take the test. I can sign up tomorrow and go take that master electric without any experience, nothing. If I was book smart, I could pass it. But I don't have any experience. So that's where that 8,000 hours comes in the 211. It just, or the, what do you call it?
W-16.
So,
So are you saying, is the 211 a harder test?
Same test, basically. But
So,
the it's Philadelphia's, and they can modify it to fit what they want.
all right, but again, to show uniformity, to eliminate any type of discrimination from wherever, I would agree that if a person can show hours in the field, hours experience, and hours requirements, 8,000 hours, and they did take a 211 test, then they could qualify to take the W-16. But on the other hand, if a person from Buffalo has the W-16 test that Erie, City of Erie tests, and can prove the 8,000 hours, does that mean they qualify to take the test, or since it's the same test, they get a master's license?
They get a master's license. They would be issued a master's.
So we just need his jurisdiction requirement
well,
in order to approve him.
hold on a second. One thing I think needs to be said is that that's all fine, but the verifier from wherever they're from, Buffalo, that verifier should be a master in that jurisdiction. So,
That's where the applicant would be required to provide that information. That we look at their ordinance to see what is required to take that master's test. So we can make sure that it is equivalent to what we require.
okay.
So in just reviewing this, Mark Melber, his verifier that Kevin Marteau, he is a license holder, master electrician for the city of Buffalo. So that's where this Mark has his journeyman's, or I guess Mark has a master's license there for the city of Buffalo. So basically, we're just asking now is for the requirements for the city of Buffalo for the master's license.
Yep.
And that would be a letter going out to Mark Melber stating, requesting that information from him, making him do the legwork instead of the city of Erie.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be simpler, instead of doing that, finding out he only has 4,000 hours, verifiable hours, and we have 8,000? Wouldn't it be simpler just to It's a mandate that you have to verify that you've worked under a master electrician, in this case, 8,000 hours, and have that, so that our criteria are met.
Well, that's what he has to prove that.
Well, wait a second. If he has a master's and he has 4,000 hours, he's not going to have to work under another master to get his hours, because he already has his master's.
Yeah, but it's not requiring, it's,
There,
In there, right.
Buffalo, he would have to work 4,000 more hours to be eligible for ours.
He just has to prove his employment.
8,000 hours.
Right.
Under
It-
a master.
like if
Under
it-
a master.
Right.
No, he can be a master.
Well, here's what you don't want to have happen. A lot of people in the trade start out being a truck driver. Let's see if you can show up on time. And then they get into an apprenticeship. And then they become journeymen. You don't want a guy verifying that the guy worked there and he was a truck driver for 5 years, and now that he's grown disenfranchised with the firm after 1 year of field experience, he's coming to take the test. There's got to be, and my whole point of this is, we either enforce it or we don't enforce it. And 8,000 hours is a sticking point for a lot of this. So,
well, I think that is enforced. 8,000 hours, we're gonna enforce the 8,000 hours. I mean, it's what the city requires for a license.
Most
But-
jurisdictions require 8,000.
Again, we have to prove wherever, you know, this gentleman took the W-16 for Buffalo, what are the requirements for that test? If it is 8,000 hours in the W-16, it's the same criteria as here in Pennsylvania. For this Mr. Bell's, when he spoke with his licensing, you know, see what the requirements was for Buffalo, or for Philadelphia, and put that on him. I mean, like I said, when he was speaking, I knew we did approve an individual already with past experience and past licensing, so now we kind of did a flip-flop on that. That's what my concern
Well,
is.
should we, if he can prove his hours working under a master in Philadelphia, should we allow him to take the W-16? Is that?
I don't think he wasn't from Philadelphia.
No, this is the
The other
Buffalo,
individual.
this is a gentleman from Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I'm not him. I mean,
He has the two.
yeah, Roland was not, I don't think he was from Philadelphia.
He's from Maryland.
Maryland.
yeah.
But he had a Philadelphia license, right?
Yeah, he had a 211.
Allentown, Philadelphia, I think.
But then this opens another can of worms.
But that would mean he probably didn't work 8,000 hours when he took the two.
I still think
does
the
the
best thing we can do is
consideration-
send a letter out to each of these jurisdictions and say, how many hours do you require? Period.
Yeah.
Then we have a definitive answer, and we say, this is what this place requires, this is what we require, and then we can go from there. Rather than saying, you send me your letter, you send me your letter, you send me your letter from wherever you have your masters.
We're just gonna add that to the application, and when we send it to them, they provide us that information. And there's so many jurisdictions that
I agree with Andy. Just because you send a letter doesn't mean you'll get a reply. Once you put the omen on the requesting for a license, it's part of the requirement to either, you know, have that information. So it would be easier for them to pressure the right entity to get that information than for Andy to send a letter out. I mean, I send letters out and I never get responses from different places. I mean, I could probably contact someone in Buffalo and get that information. I couldn't contact anybody in Philadelphia and try and get information from Philadelphia. They're a whole little nation in themselves in the city of Pennsylvania, so.
I think that if they apply and they don't meet the hours, we send them a letter and say, hey, we require 8,000 hours. You've got 4,000 listed. You need to provide us with 4,000 more, and that's it.
And another thing too is, this is a whole nother thing, but for years, many jurisdictions refuse to reciprocate with us. I don't know if we should consider that anywhere, but they refuse to take our plumbing licenses and go to anywhere in the state almost.
Allegheny County.
Actually, I got denied a Meadville license once. Well, my dad did, a 35-year-old master, but I happened to take the whatever number ICC plumbing test, and that's why they gave me a license. But yeah, clearly, I mean, there's a lot of jurisdictions that just refuse to reciprocate no matter what. No, they don't want to deal with it. So I don't know. I feel like some that may or may be a consideration. I don't know.
That's a valid point.
Allegheny refuses, Philadelphia refuses. These are all things we should consider. Like, well, I don't know. I was just putting it out there.
It's a valid point. I mean,
They refuse.
I can't take my master plumber's license into Philadelphia.
I can't take mine to
They won't give me
Meadville.
the time of day.
Meadville. I can't go to Meadville.
They won't give me the time of day in Philadelphia with my master's license.
Yeah. Nope.
That's a fact, because they don't reciprocate.
They don't
Can
reciprocate.
you go down to Pittsburgh, Allegheny County?
No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
Their,
not.
their test is by the Department of Health, or used to be.
Article
Still is.
15.
Yeah.
Their test is Article 15.
Huh.
That's what we used to have here many.
So there are a lot
Years
of
ago.
places that don't reciprocate, period.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's a
100%.
lot of places that
So
refuse
if-
to take the city of Erie's.
If you have a license, you can take the test, but they're not gonna grant you a license.
I got you.
And that you gotta meet the criteria to be able to take the test. It's the same conversation we're having here, guys.
So we're not unique in what we're requiring.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, I think approving all these things would be the same as reciprocation. What's the difference?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why I brought it up.
If I can't go to Allegheny County and file a plan for a permit, why should we allow that to go the other
What?
direction?
Yeah, that's always been kind
That's
of.
why I asked the question that I
Yes,
asked.
of
I'm
course.
not,
Yeah.
I'm not, by far, I'm not an expert on this. I'm asking you guys because you're in this situation.
Right.
So you know, and you can answer that question. Should we have reciprocity? Apparently, no. If it's not being given to us, why should we give it?
Yeah, and I
That's why I asked the questions
And I
that
think-
I asked, because I don't know.
And I'd like to say the code is the code, but there's a reason why it's not just a knowledge-based test, a book test. You go into some of these buildings that have been here for 100 years, you're gonna find plumbing in those buildings that is not in the code book, as it stands today. And when you go to flush those toilets that only have a half a gallon of water or a quart of water, and you've got some crazy old pitch in there, maybe it's not gonna flush. But that's the reason why I think the field experience is just as important as the book knowledge.
Right, and that's why we make sure everyone's working under a master in our jurisdiction. So Jim's right, absolutely, we should be consistent.
Yes.
And maybe we didn't think that through all the way when we made that decision.
this is all learning.
Right,
You
this
know,
is
we're trying
new,
to-
of course, but we should be consistent with our decisions. If we're not getting reciprocation from Buffalo, Allegheny County, Philadelphia, Allentown, I mean, or anywhere else in the country for that
Yeah,
matter,
literally.
why should we allow?
I can't go to
We
Meadville.
can't-
We can't go to Meadville with our license.
Yeah, I mean, I can't pull a permit in
It's silly,
Meadville with my
which-
area master.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have to be consistent.
Yes.
We're all in our little silos.
So,
Mr. Melvin, did that?
What do we do with Mr.
Do we
Milbury?
have a motion or?
yeah, we're gonna have to,
Are we
we're
gonna
gonna,
request his jurisdiction criteria? Since he did.
I would say due to no current reciprocity with Buffalo
yeah.
would be a reason, right, TJ, maybe? Mr. Zeman?
Well, I don't think the code's written that way, or the
I think he's got
ordinance.
to.
But the 8,000 hours
He's gotta give us his
under a
hours.
city of Erie, I mean, I hate to beat that one to death, but that's the way it's written.
Yeah.
That's the way it's
The way it's
written.
written, it's gotta go.
So we need to request his criteria for that jurisdiction.
No, he's just, he'll probably be denied under the way that UCC's written, that he doesn't have the hours under a City of Erie master electrician.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say, it doesn't say a city of Erie master. And do you still have the ordinance up? I mean, it doesn't say a city of Erie licensed master.
Andy, I don't have the ordinance in front of me.
This requirement shall be waived if an applicant has a current master license from a competent jurisdiction whose standards are determined to be equivalent to those of the board.
So he would have to prove.
Well, the whole statement states, and this is on page 22, the board, upon presentation of proper credentials, shall include a contractor's or master license equivalent to a license as issued by the city, may issue a license to a firm not normally doing contract work in the city, provided an agreement of return privilege is reached between the city and the participating municipality. So if Buffalo does not have a participating reciprocal.
Okay.
Where's that?
He just read it out of the
What
book.
page is that?
Yes, sir.
Jim,
I beg your pardon?
what page is that?
Page 21.
What section?
It's a reciprocal agreement, forfeiture of license, section 11.
I took care of that. Okay.
I have a question. So I'm currently going through this situation with a master plumber from Allegheny County. It's him and his son. He has a master license in City of Erie as well as Allegheny County. However, his son is just a journeyman in Allegheny County. I'm getting the feeling that they're looking to expand up in here in the Erie area. How is that going to work as far as if he can prove his hours of working under his dad, which is a master license holder with the city of Erie? He's going to present his hours to Christie with the application process. So technically he was working under his dad, which is licensed in the city, and he wants a journeyman's license in our area.
To his apprentice
It's-
license. Under his dad.
As long as he's been registered here all along, he should be eligible since he works under a master.
If he has.
He is not licensed through the city.
Then no.
No.
He would have to hold an apprentice card and then take the exam. So that's how that would work. So reciprocity was actually the answer for both of these questions. We don't have reciprocity with Mr. Bella's jurisdiction or Mr. Melber's jurisdiction. There's no, it doesn't meet the ordinance as far as reciprocation. So we really have no choice but to, in my opinion, deny the application because of the language in the ordinance. Do you agree?
Was that to reciprocate giving him a license or the ability to take the test?
He can't. We can't, because.
He doesn't meet our qualifications,
Right.
and there's no reciprocity, so.
Jim, can you read that, would you mind reading that section again? Please, I apologize.
This is section 11, reciprocal agreement. The board, upon presentation of proper credentials, which shall include a contractor's or master license equivalent to a license as issued by the city, may issue a license to a firm not normally doing contract work in the city, provided an agreement of return privilege is reached between the city and the participating municipality.
I think that's to issue him a license. That's not granting him the ability to take the test. I think that's two different things.
Yeah, but if you already have the license, do you
Well,
need to take the
yeah,
test?
we're saying, hey, we're going to give you a license because you have the same in your city. We're going to reciprocate. But now we can't deny him the ability to take the test. But in order to take the test, he's got to have all the credentials or things in place, the hours, all the requirements. Then he could take the test. We're not handing him a license. We're granting him the ability to take the test.
Does that fall under the same reciprocity
I think the
us
reciprocity
taking the
is
test in Allegheny?
only for giving him a license,
Okay.
to give him a license.
To give them the ability to sit for the test, let's not gloss over in the first sentence there, the equivalent. And if ours is 8,000 hours and his, we're back to that, they gotta verify they've met
Yeah,
our
I think that
criteria.
anybody could take the test. I don't think we should hand anybody a license that doesn't reciprocate us, but if they meet all the requirements, they should be able to take the test.
Our
I think it-
requirements.
Our requirements.
Correct.
Our requirements,
I'm on board.
yeah.
Yes.
Is, he eligible for a one-time license? Because he currently has the contract with Tops. They're doing the 38th Street and the Liberty Street Tops. So is he eligible for a one-time license to complete those two jobs?
I don't know what the requirements are for one time.
We did give one-time license to the solar contractor, so I
Yes.
don't see why.
But I just wanted to make sure he was eligible for that because he does have the contract.
What are the requirements to get a one-time license?
As long as they have a master, is that how it works? As long as they hold a master in another jurisdiction. Now, he has taken the test of that plus, so do we require that they have the exam taken, Andy? So he has the exam and he's taken the exam and he has a master.
Yeah, then he would be eligible for a one-time
Okay.
license.
Because he has to get those two jobs done since he already has a contract with them for the remodel.
Andy, just for clarification, a one-time license is now one job. It's not one job at a time.
No.
It's one job.
He's working two. He's doing two, but he already has the contract, so I mean, we can allow him to complete just those two top scores and then that be it.
Well, that's not a one-time license.
I don't think he's gonna have a problem, because if you really pay close attention to his application, he's a master, and he has another master that he allegedly worked under, that works for him
In Buffalo.
in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So that person could pull the other license if needed, I'm assuming, right?
And if he would do that, my issue goes away. Because
Right.
he's got a one-time
He has
license and
one,
he's
and
got a
then
one-time
his other
license.
employee could pull the other.
Again, I'm just trying to make sure we're doing the things in a uniform manner, and we don't have guys one-time licensing the rest of their career here.
I would agree with
And
that.
that has happened in the past. You could go one-time license for the duration of an individual job and get another job, and that's a one-time license, and another job, and that's a one-time license.
Well, I think it's written, it's a one-year period, isn't that right?
Well, the way we gave it to him, we request an end date, and the license will expire the last day of the month that they provide us an end date of, for the end of the job.
And then they're not eligible for another year
They're not eligible at all.
ever again?
No.
Oh.
One time.
One time. That's the way Andy explained how it was in the past. Because I don't think we have had one in a very long time. And we only gave those to electricians. We only gave them to electricians in the past. They weren't offered to plumbers. But there were only electricians, and it's been a while since we issued a one-time license to anyone.
I don't think that's true.
We have no record of a plumber having a one-time license.
I'm not aware.
I don't want to name names, but I know a guy worked in an area that's not from here.
Single project.
Single project, Methodist Towers.
Single project.
I personally think the idea of a one-time license is silly. You didn't meet our criteria, but since you're only doing one, that'd be like me telling my kid, like, you know, you can try heroin once, but, I mean, I know it's a little extreme, but kind of the same thing.
Just once.
I think this is a lot simpler than we're making it. We want 8,000 hours. Do you have 8,000 hours? That's step one. If you don't, move to Erie for a year and work under someone until you do. Then we'll talk about it again. Step two, if you pass the test and you have the 8,000, like the gentleman said, then you get the license. If you have the 8,000, but you have an equivalent test, all that does is allow you to take our test. But at least that allows you to do that. And then that would kind of probably get away with it, or get away from 99% of these one-time licenses anyways, and we'll do everything else we want. So I don't think there's really an issue.
Well, that's I think you put it, summed up what this gentleman I've been stating, that
Yeah, I think it's all the same.
you know, I don't have a problem with that. You know,
Writing
and
down
since,
what you just said.
But he can work it a lot better.
I got it.
You got it? All right.
Eliminating a one-time license.
No, it would be, that person would be granted a master's license.
Yeah.
Now everyone's confused.
So where do we stand with Mr. Melville?
But I think, well, my statement would be, it would be up to him to verify what Buffalo's requirements were to take the master's test. But then again, Buffalo.
Why does that matter to us? I'm not going to cut you off, but that's the part I'm confused on. We're not reciprocating anything. Why do we care what Buffalo's requirements are? What's the number on the test that he took? And how many hours were you working in the trades? I think is the only thing we should really be concerned about. We should eliminate the middleman of reciprocation or finding out what the other jurisdictions do, because it's only going to muddy the waters.
Yeah, just verify.
Reciprocation is in the ordinance, so that's the only thing.
Or we're not reciprocating by doing the way that a couple of us have mentioned, because you're not giving them anything that doesn't match up with what we already require.
But you are.
Reciprocation would be, I took a plumbing test, but if I go to wherever, I can also be a mechanical installer. That would be reciprocation. But if I took the same model number test and I have the 8,000 hours, you're not reciprocating anything with me. You're granting me the same requirement as if I would have been born in here.
Okay. So what this guy needs to do, he has to prove to us that their master license is equivalent to our master, what's required. He also would then have to go to the municipality where his master license has been issued and ask for a reciprocal agreement with the city of Erie. So he would have to go to Buffalo. Buffalo and the city of Erie would then, our guys can work there, their guys can work here. In an agreement. The chances of that happening are quite slim. But he does have the ability to ask Buffalo for that ability. And then it would come back to the board, does the board want to accept an agreement with Buffalo? That's his option. So at this point, he's denied.
Yeah.
You guys need to vote on it?
Yeah, I would agree.
Were we gonna talk about giving him the ability to get a one-time license and then maybe his employee as well that holds a master's?
I think the one-time license is at the discretion of the code office. That's not our.
Yeah, we don't really push that.
Yeah.
If they read an ordinance and they discover it, yeah, but I don't, like Sam, I don't care really.
Yeah, that's not our purview. We're the licensing board. We don't get any say what the code office does.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's $600.
Well, he's no different than Roland Bells. Because if the first guy on the video conference could come up with the same information for where he sits that Mark Melbourne could come up with, then we would entertain both of them. But it's...
If both of them do come back and prove that they are equivalent to our ordinance, but then they've got to go to theirs, where they hold their master license, and ask that jurisdiction if they will reciprocate with us.
And I think
So-
that's how the letter should go out.
In order to move on, I'll make a motion that these two individuals, Melber and Bells, provide the documentation that state that their current licenses meet the thresholds of the city of Erie, and that there is a reciprocal agreement between the city of Erie and their local jurisdiction.
Where they have their masters.
Where they have their masters. And if they do that, then we grant them the ability to take the test.
Well, if they already meet everything, then I would say the only thing that, depending on if they had to take the test or not, is if the municipality would grant or would honor a master's license from the city of Erie to, say, Philadelphia. If they grant without taking the test, then they don't have to recertify the test as long as they meet the requirements.
Okay, so the end game of that motion would be then we approve them?
Yes. But again, it's a tall order.
That isn't for us to decide. I mean, we can tell them to stand on their left leg for all, you know.
But you're asking them to prove they have met the same qualifications for license for the city of Erie, plus a reciprocal agreement with the municipality that where they currently hold a license. Those are the two qualifications.
If you want to keep it clean, I could change my motion to we deny them both. We didn't give no reason for that, other than they don't meet the intent of the code.
Well, I don't think that's how the ordinance is written. I think there is a clause in there that would honor, again, upon presentation of proper credentials. So they have proper credentials, then all they have to do is the municipality would have to agree to reciprocate, thank you, with the city of Erie licensing. And I'm just reading what the policy, the ordinance states.
I'm just trying to move this forward.
I agree. I agree. And I guess, is this ordinance on the City of Erie website?
Yes.
So Mr. Bells could actually download it and state a valid argument that this is his path to get a license for the City of Erie.
I think it was forwarded to him, but he could.
I'm just stating that by what I'm reading here and seeing what his credentials are, there's a high probability that all he needs to do is get an agreement between Philadelphia and the City of Erie.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm getting a headache.
I think there's two issues. There's the issue of being reciprocal.
Yep.
Then there's the issue of being able to take the test. Right?
Correct.
So he's not, until he can get Philadelphia to agree that we can reciprocate with them, that's pretty much off the board. So now, we just have to decide if he's eligible to take the test. If he's not eligible to take the test, why isn't he eligible? And it would be lack of hours.
Right.
And also, he has no class time listed in that application for any schooling.
Who?
Schooling was taken out of the new ordinance.
Oh, it was?
It was, we don't require, because before we did hire, like for electricians, we required 2 years of schooling. But I don't think it's noted in the, I don't think it's noted in the new ordinance.
This guy's been with the IBEW since '96.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that we need to,
Who decides reciprocity? Does that have to go to City Council?
We do. Which we currently do not reciprocate with any jurisdictions on.
Correct.
And that's something we need to think about. Do we use that as a reason for denial?
But that's not up to us to say, hey, we want to reciprocate with you.
Correct.
That's not our deal.
Yeah. We just know we don't. Would that be between code enforcement then?
Why should we reciprocate with anybody? Why not
Yeah.
just say, if you meet the hours in schooling and you take the test, or you at least have the ability to take the test and you pass it, that's it.
Yeah.
And take the middleman of reciprocating completely off the table and not even mess with it. Because Christie's gonna end up with a whole list of places that we now reciprocate with when the guy from Virginia wants to come here, and then a year later, maybe they don't. Or the other scenario is gonna be that, I have, let's say I'm from Philadelphia, I took the same test. Philadelphia only requires 600 hours. You're gonna say, well, do we match up? And the answer is gonna be, no. Erie wants more, but what if that's all Philadelphia wanted, but I've really been working in Philadelphia for 24,000 hours or something like that. It's not the same matching up. However, I've exceeded what you wanted if I would have lived in Erie. So I would not even mention reciprocating with anything. I'd take it right off the table and do they meet the hours? Do they meet the test? Keep it simple.
I agree.
But it's in the ordinance.
Exactly. And I'm just saying, it's in the ordinance. I mean, somebody, I'm sure Mr. Bells was pretty upset when we didn't grant him what he wanted. I'm sure he would have someone look over that ordinance and, see what clauses he can actually utilize to get what he wants.
So for these two, we will send a letter that they do not meet the city ordinance for application for a master's license, nor do we have a reciprocal agreement in place for whoever's original master license is.
Simple.
Is their application doesn't indicate their work hours. So we don't know that. So yeah. Technically.
You just deny them because they don't have the hours, right? Don't approve the hours?
You put both reasons in your summary.
We'll put that in the letter, yes.
I think the worst thing you can do is deny it for one reason. He meets that obligation and comes back in front of us, and then we say, oh, wait a minute. There's this one, too.
Well, it's their responsibility to know the ordinance.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, I'll entertain any motions anybody has.
Well, I'll make a motion to just paraphrase what Andy said.
Okay.
You've got that written down?
Somewhat, that the application has been rejected because your application doesn't meet the minimum qualifications of master license requirement. And also, we do not have a reciprocal agreement in place with your master license original.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Okay.
Who's that second?
Mr. Dietrich, second the motion.
Oh, yeah.
Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the motion? Being that there's no questions on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, so moved.
Hey, that'll help the future, though. A lot there.
Okay, next application is Mr. Seth Jackson. I believe this is Scott Jackson's son. He is a registered master plumber. He is the verifier for Seth. It appears that Seth has the correct amount of time as an apprentice registered with the city. Is that correct, Christie?
Yes.
Okay.
But you need her card.
Mr. Jackson's verifier is complete, and his paperwork is in order, and he has all of his documentation correct to take the journeyman exam.
Entertain a motion?
Hey.
Make a motion that we approve him to take the exam.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ziwi. Motion by Mr. Armstrong. Any question on the motion? Any question? If there's no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, so moved. Okay, next we have Andrew Peden. I reviewed this document. I have some questions. Is Mr. Peden registered as a journeyman in the city of Erie?
No.
Reapplying. I thought he was.
No, Pete Peden, his father, is a registered master plumber. But Andrew did not, he's not been registered with this, underneath Pete's master's license.
No, because he never worked in the city of Erie. He said once he completed his journeyman, he was told that, I think this is him, he never had to apply for a license anywhere, like he doesn't hold a license yet.
Well, the company in his employ has a license, so if he wants to take an exam, he needs to be registered as an apprentice, just like everyone else, right?
Yep.
I'm a little confused at,
Was he ever a journeyman then?
He never held a license here in the city of Erie.
He's got one in Jamestown, though, doesn't he?
He has one in Jamestown.
So he doesn't have an apprentice or journeyman license here?
No, he does not. But he has it in Jamestown, and he just previously took his master's in Jamestown after he was denied.
here's what I'm thinking. He's never had a license here. How can we let him take the master's? He's never ever had a license here. Now, I would say that if he can prove, since he worked for his dad, Pete Peden, if he could prove he's been employed there for 4 years, I'd say if he showed that he could take the journeyman exam, I wouldn't say that he could take the master's exam. If he could prove his employment. And of course, he would have to pay the code office back the 4 years of the apprentice fee. What do you guys think?
They would give him to take the journeyman's then, you're saying, or the master's?
Why, I mean, he's never been registered here ever. Why would we let him take the master's?
Yeah, no, I agree, yeah.
TJ, why is he any different than the guy from Philadelphia or Maryland or wherever? If he doesn't have the hours, he doesn't have the hours. If he's got them outside the jurisdiction, so be it. Prove it.
Yeah.
And then you qualify to take whatever test that allows you to take. But if he's not licensed, I thought he had a license, an apprenticeship license here, though. Am I mixing him up?
No.
No, he doesn't.
Andrew Peden.
Oh, he's got the backflow for Erie.
He's got a tester's license.
Yeah.
It's not a TR license.
Nope. Oh, the one under that, if you, right there, he had his apprenticeship, New York, I can't read that. I'm sorry.
Department of Labor.
It says apprenticeship training completion, a certificate of completion.
Yeah, but it doesn't have his name on it or anything.
I think that's the back of
It's the back of that card.
That's the back of what
Oh.
is.
Wait, can you scroll back up for a second? I want to see that, the back side of the card.
The certificate of completion? Or the
Right here,
paper?
yeah, right here. Huh.
His father's a master.
Pete, yeah, Pete has a master's. Citadel.
Andy,
Andrew's not,
I have a feeling that he was a grandfather from the prior
probably.
licensing. That's one of the points I was trying to make about that.
He's had his license since 2000 here.
Yeah, 23 years. Okay, so when Pete screwed up, he should have had his son on an apprenticeship program, or as an apprentice here, working, and then journeyman, then he would have been eligible, because we do not reciprocate with Jamestown. Doesn't mean anything to us. So he's basically starting out as apprentice.
The Jamestown Masters test is not an equivalent to ours. I can tell you from experience, that's not true.
But that,
Right there,
Yeah,
F-27.
we don't reciprocate, so. He needs to start as an apprentice under his dad, working for his dad.
simply stated, he doesn't meet the qualifications to take the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Let him dig deep, you know. It's right in that ordinance where the qualification, you know. I agree.
If you want that in the form of a motion, I'll make a motion denying him because he doesn't meet the criteria to take the test.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dietrich. Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the motion? Being that there's none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Application is denied.
So he doesn't meet the qualifications?
He does not meet the qualification. The last one is Eric Schweier. I went through, this one's easy. I went through here and all of his experience is in order. The only problem with his application is that he's missing some information on his verifier.
Yes.
So he needs to get that either corrected or resubmitted. So, I don't think we need to take any action on it, just send him a letter that says, hey, you gotta resubmit your verifier page.
I agree with that.
I agree.
No action needs taken.
That's important stuff for a service tech.
Yeah, we just need to, because like we said on other applicants for master's licenses, they have to be verified in completion. That's what we've been requiring. A journeyman, remember we had that discussion? The journeyman, his verifier may not be complete because there's some things that you take as a journeyman, you're not already gonna know that. You're gonna get that as a journeyman. So to be uniform with the verifiers taking a master installer's license, you have to have a complete verifier section. So we can just table his application for him to correct the issue.
Now, can we get another verifier? Because I know Mr. Tinko signed off on his application because he worked with him, I think they worked out Rave together. Mr. Tinko just left Rave, just think
Yeah.
So can he get another maybe that's why Brian did not sign off on those, because he did
Maybe
not-
yeah, but Brian maybe just didn't know, so he could just ask him, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then he can just resubmit.
Okay.
Brian may not have known and didn't ask him, so that's why he didn't check it off. Well, that's the last application.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by
Second.
Second by Mr. Greco. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you next month. Thank you.